Hello, everyone. This is Marita, one who catches lightning, with the Path of Ish podcast, Walking with Our Shadow, where we share ancient indigenous teachings of remembrance, all so we can walk and learn how to walk a path of radical self-love. Welcome, everyone, as we sit with another opportunity to come to the circle. Now, if you've taken my classes, we go a little bit deeper into talking about circle, and if you've listened to some of my podcasts, in what circle the actual shape as a blueprint holds. And we've talked about that, right? That it holds everything. And the reason that I want to bring that to your attention is that there have been some interesting conversations that I've had over the past week that I'd like to bring to this circle. And it's really about definitions and expectations. So let us just take a moment, right? The moment that you say that, people start getting defensive. And let's just settle into circleness, the ability to be in it all, right? To be in circle means you really need to practice non-attachment, because circle allows for the possibility of anything and everything. It holds it that way. It will hold differences of opinion. It holds differences of definitions. And it really holds cultural references that are mistaken. So it holds otherness. And if you are someone who grew up, quote unquote, normal, or in a situation where you were not a minority or in a cultural bubble, then when you enter into a circle that is held by a different culture, right? Just like visiting a foreign country, it will be different. It will hold your lack of understanding, as well as all of the emotions that come up from being in a different place where your normal is not normal. And usually people associate that with fear. Many do so. Because everyone, even though they say they want adventure, wants something predictable. We have been taught that predictability is safe. And in general, all beings, to a certain degree than others, want safety and security. And we definitely know that humans are, you could call them the apex predators of safety and security, in the sense that they are constantly motivated and needy to ensure their safety. And unfortunately, humans have ensured their safety in many ways, much to the destruction of this planet, believing themselves to be better. So with that, let us enter into the circle as we ask the east, the south, the west, and the north. Wow, settling in here. The east again. To hold us, to hold our differences. The differences among ourselves, our body, mind, and essence. And the differences between our cultures. And as we enter into the circle, we ask Mother Earth for a root, that which we have earned, and ask to be witnessed and held by the ancestors on this plane. And ask the sky and the cloud beings, the star beings, to give us great vision. Now, as we begin this conversation I'd like to bring another conversation I was having with my friend Angel Deer the other day, who I think hopefully we are connecting again today. I have to text him. And we had spoken about this a few times, and he shared with me that he was with a Lakota elder once who shared with him the fact that in Lakota there is no definition or word or philosophy when it comes to the word hope. The reason being that he continued to explain, this elder says, we don't have hope. We don't understand that as a concept. But what we have is prayer and action. And that's why you see us in the picket lines. That's why you see us standing up and taking action, right? To protect this planet, to protect it from drilling, to protect it from further exploitation. Whether you are protecting sacred mountains, lands, or rivers, there is in this philosophy action and prayer and action, not just well wishes and hope. Hoping that some the great white hope, I guess you could say, is going to come and save everyone. And this word hope to me is really interesting because when I speak about it in a cultural setting, it really brings up a lot of things for people. In a few circles that I held that I was teaching, it was interesting to have conversations of expectations. And one of the expectations that many of my students were talking about as we were defining what is ceremony is safety. And I said to them, let's go back and let's really dig into this. What do you mean about safety? Right? And as we continue to dig, right, we started to see the parallel that people think that spirituality is a safe place. And for me, that is very ill-informed. It actually shows this link to Catholicism and Christianity and the idea that if you believe their philosophy, you are safe. You are saved. And for some reason, that promise continues to be in Western colonized culture. And as people leave the churches and try to enter indigenous circles, they are walking with this savior mentality. They want to be saved. They just don't like the way that the church has promised it and has gone against many of their teachings when it comes to respecting people's rights, when it comes to using the church as a weapon of colonization that allowed and continues to allow for rape and massacre of beings and people within their system as well as outside. Christianity was used as an excuse, and it continues to be used as an excuse to do abhorrent things to people. Christianity has become now a cult And that cult of a club of you have to be a certain way. And if you are outside of this, then you are damned. But if you look at the teachings of Yeshua ben Joseph of Nazareth, they were none of the kind. And this is what happens when religions and cults are created, when they crucify and raise someone up to a status of savior. And I think people look for saviors because they're exhausted. They're exhausted of their life. The number one thing that I hear people wanting to be saved from is their life. They find Western life exhausting. The demands of time, the demands of money, the demands of keeping up is exhausting. And then they go into indigenous people circles hoping to be saved from colonization, yet still holding these ideas of promised safety, which really, if you start digging in, safety means hope. And what does hope really mean? And I'm saying this within the conversations, right? This is not a broad, one-sided definition. This is a working definitions. And if you ever take classes with me, we have working definitions because we understand that we come from many cultures and ideologies. So we work together to create common language. And that doesn't mean that it becomes the definition. It means that for that time, we've agreed to disagree sometimes. And at another time, we will continue to add to that language because as we speak, we build life, we build relationship. And so when people come to these indigenous circles, they are wanting to be saved and hoping to be safe. And if you really dig into safety even a little bit more, what they're wanting is an excuse to justify their behavior and their life. Saving means I don't have to be accountable for the way that I live. I don't have to be accountable for the way that the generations before me have acted out towards other beings on this planet, including humans. Yet they want to come to circles and save generations or heal generations of their families. But that means that there must be prayer and action. And in these circles of prayer, it means accountability. You must face yourself. Not to judge it and condemn it, but to know it. And that is the difference. One of the many differences between indigenous spirituality versus the amalgamation and the rebranding of Catholicism into New Age and into New Spirituality, where you must be saved and where everyone is competing. And everyone has this hope. And the longer that they stay in these circles, the more that they have to face these layers. I have students that have been with me for years and they're just scratching the surface of looking at themselves, at looking at their culture and where they come from, and starting to learn that life is not a fairy tale. And that to enter circles does not mean just an escape. And so many people see indigenous circles as an escape, which I find so weirdly disconcerting, because you're literally going to the people that you killed and try to wipe out their whole knowledge and continue to persecute, and you want them to save you. That seems odd to me. It seems a little mad to me. Why would you literally go to a circle of people that your culture thinks less of, that your culture has tried the best to wipe out, and because you're so tired of the way that your culture does things, you try to find safety in the culture that is being oppressed. That is a tall thing to ask of, my friend. And if you wonder why there's so much anger, and you are surprised by the anger of indigenous people rising up around the world, it's because they have the wounds of genocide that are fresh in their minds. So when you come into indigenous circles, one of the things that you have to face is also the genocide of your people. That's what those circles will bring up. There is no escape from it. There is prayer. There is witnessing. There is action. There is accountability. And there is choice. Accountability includes how you judge yourself and others, how you are creating a world that you need saving from, including your informed idea of guilt and condemnation. And competition. The reason that I bring this up is that I tell all my students is to be cognizant of the fact that in spirituality, right, it especially when it comes through the, ¿cómo se dice? The interpretations that humans have of things, they're still humans interpreting spirituality. And humans, until you understand humans' potential for what we are capable of doing and have been continuing to do, including genocide, You must be aware of that. Nothing in nature lacks danger, and humans are part of nature. Nothing in nature is truly safe. Thus, humans aren't truly safe. And the more that we can actually face that, instead of having magical thinking about it, the more we can be accountable. And then the more that we can witness each other in the struggle, which we call life. The struggle to act with grace, mercy, and compassion versus consuming and destroying to make yourself feel safe. To recognize the struggle and the challenge that this life just presents to live on this planet. And how we have complicated it with all of these conditions of society and the creation of better and other. And if you're tired of your society, know that as you're crossing the bridge to a new one, you will have to face, you will not be saved of all of these conditions that your society have created, that you consciously and subconsciously continue to act out in your life. Now, it seems that I'm not giving any hope here. But no, hope is prayer in action. It's the witnessing. It's the work. And yes, it's exhausting. Life is exhausting. But it's also wonderful and beautiful. It holds all. Earth is a circle, right? It's circular. It holds everything. The most divine and the opposite. Beauty that makes you weep, as well as cruelty that makes you weep. If humans can finally embrace their animalistic human tendencies, then we could face things together. Not to save each other, not to give hope that is non existent, but to really create again that community, that village, that not just survives but thrives. And part of the thriving is being able to come to the circle as a community, and each of the individuals face themselves and how they are continuing or how they have habits that cause harm to themselves and to others. And you've heard me say this before, if we stop, or should I say, if white people stop trying to be good and proving that they're a good person, maybe we can finally start an honest communication of facing ourselves. And redefining what we think good is and why you have been trying to prove it all your life. And what you think bad is, and what you think condemnation is, and what you think all the words that have created your life mean, and how you are continuing to live in their promises, in their hope. The reason that you see indigenous circles go to plant kingdoms and animal kingdoms for inspiration and for healing is because they're very different from the human one. And it's not to save us from our humanity, it's to allow us to face it, to face our creatureness, to face our tendencies, to face our potential of all things, to learn of our capacity, our functionality, not to be saved. There are so many people out there robbing people of their lesson of their life because they're upset that they're suffering. There's so many healers out there and so many people who have been taught to save people and are actually robbing them of their medicine and their lesson, that the struggle that they're in is trying to teach them, because they come from a society that correlates struggle with being a bad person, or correlates strife with condemnation. And they just want to relieve it. It makes them uncomfortable. And they think they're being a good person by taking the burden away from that person, but then what they're doing is they're carrying it themselves. They have now brought upon that lesson to themselves. And so all of a sudden you have your lesson, which is your life, you might not get to because you're carrying everyone's. I had a student the other day get frustrated with me about how, when they came for advice, I taught them as a teacher would. And I didn't just alleviate or take away the lesson that they were in. And I said, I am your teacher. We have an agreement that I am your teacher. I am not your savior. And this is your lesson, not mine. My lesson is to continue to teach you in the best way that I can, which includes not taking away your lesson. But there's some weird story out there, this great white hope of the absence of feeling, the absence of difficulty, the absence of suffering. And they continue to martyr people and raise them up to that level and put on all their suffering on them. So they do not learn their lesson. And today we're going to just do a silent meditation and just take about a minute or so. And take your 3 breaths as you get into this time. And this meditation is really about the acknowledgement of and the possibility of you facing yourself at this moment. Facing the parts of yourself that you have been hiding because you are afraid that you will be judged or criticized, as well as the parts that people praise you for that actually might be detrimental. You see, everything has a yin and a yang. Everything that is quote unquote good about you or a talent that you have might also, when the energy, right? That's the thing, everything's energy. It can be used one way or another. Sometimes it is life-giving and sometimes it is not. So can you in this next moment sit with just even that concept of your talents, your actions, who you are and have defined yourself to be through society's lens, really is just energy manifested in a form that has certain tendencies. And sometimes that tendency takes you away from your truth or from greater potential, and how sometimes it brings you closer to yourself and greater potential. And so let us take our 3 breaths and do this. Just 1 minute contemplation if you need more time. Please take it. A lot moving through. I don't usually yawn when I'm recording these, but it seems there's a lot of energy moving through this circle and this conversation. So in and out. Through your nose and bring your mind into this time and space. In and out through your nose, bringing our bodies into this time and space. In and out through the nose, bringing our essence into this time and space. And are allowing ourselves to be here now. And as this minute wraps up, allow yourself to slowly come back. And be honest of where you are with yourself right now. How are you feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally? And there's no action that needs to be taken, just awareness. Can you meet yourself in your awareness of how you're feeling now? If we can start there with that radical honesty, that radical self-acceptance, then we are starting our path of radical self-love. As we face ourselves, as we're honest with ourselves, including our desires and the unexpected, unsaid expectations that you have of others, that when they are not met because of a difference of culture or just a difference of being, brings up feelings of betrayal or aloneness. This is an opportunity to start facing all of those unsaid things, those expectations of how people should act or be. So you can start exploring them. Where did this rule come from? Why do I believe this? Is this something that I want to continue to believe? Where did this come from? Who taught me this? And is it actually reasonable that I expect everyone to live the way that I live? Or to learn the way that I learn? Or can I just get to the point where I just don't know, and that's okay? With that, we thank the ancestors, the east, the south, the west, and the north, those guardians above, below on this plane, as we release the root. As we come out from the circle, and as we sit here with the invitation to be ourselves, I'd love for you to sit with an invitation to become a patron for this podcast so we can continue sharing these cultural exchanges. Many of you write and say that these podcasts are life-changing, and we would love for your support. Be it small or large, any support is welcome. Supporting living Indigenous voices so we can continue sharing the medicine of a different culture and a different way of life and beingness. So by having that information reflected back, we can start an exploration of the self in a new way. And if you are going to be in Australia this month of May, please check out all the amazing possibilities to meet us in a live circle. We are launching EEK, which we're very excited about. And this is going beyond just the 3 breaths. We're going to teach the history and the background and the development of it. And these ceremonies all also have a huge, not just teaching opportunities, right, to give you tools so that you can use on your own, right? You don't rely on me to, that's why I teach. But there also will be a healing ceremony and an opportunity to make a conscious decision to move through something and be witnessed in a very special ceremony that we will be doing. I hope that you will join us. And until then, gratitude to you for being in the circle, and gratitude to my teachers and all who have taught me, who have held this medicine for thousands upon thousands of thousands and thousands of years. This medicine of a way of being in relationship. Shide. Once again, it is with deepest gratitude that I bow to you for joining me on this podcast, this episode, this circle, this plática, this meditation, this remembering. I hope that you have stayed curious. I hope to see you in the circle again next week. So make sure that you like or follow. Until then, may you be blessed with abundance of peace and radical self-love.